Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel and to the podcast. It is 5:50 a.m. East Coast time. It is Friday, November 15th, and we have an 8-game NBA slate to discuss. Before we get into it, welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Sal Vetri. I do indeed cover daily fantasy sports in the NBA, NFL, MLB, and the WNBA. We have NFL content going out every single day. I'll be releasing my ownership podcast today on Patreon, as well as just content across YouTube this weekend. Tomorrow I'll be on the Awesemo stream. Tomorrow live stream YouTube, Sunday live stream YouTube, or Saturday live stream Patreon, Sunday live stream YouTube for NFL, and every single day an NBA video on this channel, as well as NBA player projections and my model and interest pool. So be sure to check that out. My social medias are linked up down below at SalVetriDFS on Twitter and SalVetri on Instagram. At Lock last night at 8 p.m., I opened up the projections for free, so you had an hour to use those projections before the 2-game night slate started. You had 2.5 hours to use them before the showdown slate started. Get an idea for that. I only tell that to my Instagram following. I put a story up, and that's about it. It's very just low-key. If you see it, you see it. If not, oh well. So be sure to follow me on Instagram. That is the second day in a row I've released something for free on there. It's not going to be every single day. It's more of a promotion to get people to follow me, but I surely will try and keep that up on a weekly or multiple times a week. So check me out over on Instagram as well. Trying to build that following up. If you're listening on the audio version, hope you're having a fantastic day. Be sure to leave a 5-star rate and review when you have a chance. If you have a chance right now, it takes only a couple of seconds. If you get any value from this podcast episode, I really appreciate that. And if you get any value from this YouTube video, please hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments down below, who do you think is the best value play of the night as of right now? Whenever you're watching this, maybe there's been some injuries and some value opened up. Maybe there's no injuries at all, and we only have to use the slate's natural value, which there's some, but not much. So thank you. I do appreciate that. And I do want to shout out Fantasy Draft. I can't get their salaries to load this morning, at least. They wouldn't download, so we're not going to have their salaries, unfortunately, for this video. But still, you should be checking out Fantasy Draft, revolutionizing the way that you play DFS, daily fantasy sports. With taking out rake, you're pretty much not paying interest to the sites. You can pay $0 if you want to. If you only play $100 a month, you get $1. $1 goes in, $1 comes out for you. They don't take anything off the top. If you play more than that per month, more than $100 per month, which I'm sure many people do, right? More than $25 a week, comes down to only a couple dollars a day. If you do, you only have to pay 1 to 2% per month in some sort of subscription package, as opposed to paying 10 to 15% every single day in Draftkings. So be sure to check out Fantasy Draft. There's upsides to Draftkings, of course, as well, and FanDuel in terms of just the bigger prize pools that you can try and bank. Obviously, really difficult to do that, but in Fantasy Draft, you're just going to win more money long-term if you play on sites like that. There's a link down below in the description. I don't get a penny of what you do from clicking that link, but for transparency reasons, they will track that link to say, oh, they came from Sal Vetri's podcast or YouTube channel or Twitter page, whatever it might be, so we can know where it's coming from and potentially advertise on his channel in the future. That is it. That is all the plugs. Be sure to follow me on those social medias, hit the subscribe button, 5-star rate and review. Let's get into the video, starting with injury news. So Russell Westbrook is, by all means, probable as of right now. Again, I'm shooting this at 5:53, so if it's 4 in the afternoon, he's ruled out because of rest, well, then so be it, because that's what we're about to talk about. Russell Westbrook, $8,400 on Draftkings today, very cheap price tag, but they've already announced that he's going to miss one of these days of the back-to-back. His back-to-back today and also tomorrow, Saturday. So if he plays today, he's not playing tomorrow, so we know that for a fact. And we should see the news on him later today. Obviously, if he's out today, James Harden goes through the roof. They're still without Eric Gordon. They're still without this team is really injured. They're without Eric Gordon, Daniel House, obviously since the start of the year, Gerald Green and Nene and all those players. But now they're also out no Clint Capella in this game. So if there's no Russell Westbrook, and I imagine maybe Westbrook plays today because Capella's out, and maybe he doesn't play tomorrow if Capella comes back, because they're really undermanned. So keep an eye on this. If Westbrook misses today, it's just James Harden and PJ Tucker from this entire team. That's it. There's nobody else. Austin Rivers would see a big bump up. Ben McLemore will continue to see playing time, but his price is up, and he's still a bad player at 0.56 fantasy points per minute. Clint Capella, the other injury on Houston, he's out today, already ruled out with a head injury, $7,700. It's the guy playing 30 minutes per game, so Tyson Chandler is going to draw the start here, and then P.J. Tucker should also see center minutes. I like Tyson Chandler at $4,000. I really like P.J. Tucker now at $4,500. He's going to maybe be a little bit low-key, but he's going to see in this game probably close to 10 minutes at the center, and that's really good for P.J. Tucker's upside instead of playing out on the wing where he doesn't pick up as many peripherals, at least as he did to start the season. For Indy, the same injuries, Miles Turner's ankle, Jeremy Lamb's ankle. It's going to help Goga, who is back today, actually. For Indy, he is probable, so that's going to help him play a lot of center minutes, maybe even start at center. Domantas Sabonis would then move to the 4 with Goga being back. Jeremy Lamb being out will help Aaron Holiday, Justin Holiday, and Malcolm Brogdon's overall production to an extent. For the Lakers, Rajon Rondo rested in their last game, and he is probable for this game. It will affect Alex Caruso in the rotation, Quinn Cook's rotational minutes and backup point guard minutes, and LeBron James' overall usage as a point guard when Rondo is on the court with him. Daniel House continues to be out for Houston. I actually don't think I filtered this by team. I thought I did. That would have got us Daniel House news up top, so we'll just filter it real quickly. There we go. So we can filter by team. I'll finish up the Houston news, which is Daniel House is doubtful with his back injury. Again, Ben McLemore should start. We know Eric Gordon is still going to miss time. Austin Rivers and PJ Tucker should see a bump up. Going to Utah, Dante Exum is finally back. They haven't had a backup point guard in quite some time due to some injuries. So Dante Exum finally back. He'll be backing up Mike Conley today. He's probable with a knee injury. Trevor Ariza for Sacramento is questionable with the groin. Should continue to help Harrison Barnes play huge minutes. He's day-to-day with the groin. So he's questionable, so it should help Harrison Barnes' overall minutes in production. Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's been absolutely killing it with no De'Aaron Fox, should help his minutes in production, although his price is now through the roof, but may be appropriate. Dwayne Dedmon went from being questionable to now expected to play with a knee injury. Will impact Harry Giles and Rashawn Holmes. Hamidou Diallo from the Oklahoma City Thunder did not practice on Thursday, so he's listed as questionable with knee soreness. Terrence Ferguson did practice for OKC, so he is usually the guy who plays the minutes anyways. He would just probably soak up a lot of those Hamidou Diallo minutes and be very uneventful and unproductive with them as one of the worst point per minute producers in the league. For Minnesota, Shabazz Napier continues to be doubtful with a hamstring injury. Will continue to help Jeff Teague's minutes stabilize around 30, who is probable. Josh Okogie and Jarrett Culver will get more minutes off the bench, but not really fantasy relevant. Jordan Bell continues to be questionable with a shoulder injury. Missed the last game. It will help to back up Biggs' minutes of Noah Vonleh and Gorgie Dang, but there's really no real impact. Karl Anthony Towns is going to play like 35 minutes anyways, so it doesn't really help for their fantasy upside. We talked about Rondo, and then KCP is also questionable today, $3,300. Caldwell Pope for the Lakers. He's questionable with an ankle injury. Would help Avery Bradley, Alex Caruso, Danny Green's overall minutes. Probably Danny Green the most at his price tag. Get him with a stable maybe 24 minutes. You have some upside there for fantasy, but for the most part, no real impact. Like I said, Goga is probable with his concussion. It's going to push Jakar Sampson, probably just out of the starting lineup, makes Domantas Sabonis go back to the 4, really hurts Doug McDermott's minutes at the 4 and the 5, and TJ Leaf, who's already just terrible, he'll probably get pushed from the rotation. And then Detroit, Tony Snell's probable with a hip injury, so he's not going to miss. Dwayne Dedmon is only $3,200 now for a guy playing 25 minutes per game, but he's probable with a knee injury. He's expected to continue to come off the bench. He's been really bad outside of 2 games, but wow, $3,200 is pretty cheap. Crazy price tag. For Boston, both the bigs are questionable. Daniel Tice with a finger and Robert Williams with an ankle. If they both miss, you saw Enes Kanter play decent minutes in the last game and produce pretty well, so he would be the player that benefits the most. If one of them miss, well, then the other one benefits if they're playing, and Grant Williams benefits to an extent if both of them miss, backing up probably Enes Kanter as a primary backup center. Let's move over to the target offense sheet. We're still waiting on 2 of these games, their overall totals to come out. We're waiting on the Houston and Pacers total, probably because they don't know if Russell Westbrook's going to rest or not, because the team announced he would rest one night, but not both. And then we're waiting on the Sacramento Kings and the Lakers total, which maybe they're waiting on Anthony Davis's status or just trying to figure out the effects there. But, I mean, he's by all means probable as of right now, so we'll continue to track those games. They don't start till 8 and 10:30, but those totals, I mean, I'm doing this at still 5 in the morning. Those totals should probably come out in the next hour or 2. So just hitting on some of these games quickly. When we go to Charlotte and Detroit, you're going to see an interesting price tag on both Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin. Drummond's been in foul trouble as of late, so his price at $8,600 is actually really cheap, but with Blake Griffin maybe seeing more minutes, at only $7,100, price tag comes down after he dominated in limited time of, I think, 25 minutes and scores 35 fantasy points. Yeah, I have a lot of interest in Blake Griffin playing the 4 against Charlotte today, where he's going to match up directly against rookie P.J. Washington, who has been solid in his own right, but still a good spot for Blake Griffin at that price tag. Now, obviously, the minutes limit is a big concern here, but if you get Blake Griffin playing 28 minutes today at $7,100, that's a smash price point. And I do think, if anything, the minutes are going to come up. Now, he's only had 1 full day of game activity, and then he took a rest, and there was nothing reported of any soreness or anything like that, so I'd expect him to be playing. He's probably the thing I like the most from Detroit. Drummond, an outside interest if he's just going to go unowned, but a 111 team total is pretty nice. 3-point favorites, 219 game total. Slower paced game here, so not really anything that I'm trying to go out of my way to get from the Charlotte side of this. Devontae Graham's supposed to continue to be in the starting lineup ahead of Dwayne Bacon, who continues to come off the bench. I think Dwayne Bacon at $3,200, if he's going to play somewhere around like 24, 25 minutes off the bench, is definitely worth it. Can he just get you 12 to 15 points because he's been atrocious? Yes. If he shoots decent, he'll get you into the 20s, maybe even touch 30. So I think $3,200 Dwayne Bacon stands out. Cody Zeller is cheap enough for me to have interest, but with Blake Griffin back, it's a little bit tougher of a matchup down low. A 108 team total. It's actually an okay team total relative to the slate. There's just really 1 or 2 teams that are popping off, but that's a decent average size team total. So yeah, Detroit, it's really Blake Griffin. He stands out as, if the minutes limit comes off, a priority at $7,100. If not, it's just kind of another play that I like, and it probably grades out as good value, but nothing too crazy. If we don't get any value due to injuries, which on an 8-game slate, I'm sure by, I don't know, noon or 1 or after shoot-arounds, we'll know something about somebody not playing, and it'll open up a ton of value. But if not, $3,200 Dwayne Bacon makes a lot of sense. But Terry Rozier's price comes up $1,000. I have no interest in him now in a tough matchup in a spot where they give up the fourth fewest points out of these 16 teams per game to the point guard position. Orlando and San Antonio. So two really good defenses here to start with, right? In terms of points per possession and defensive rebounding and not allowing your opponent to have offensive boards. Really good matchup. You see LaMarcus Aldridge's price come up to $6,600. It's not really a price that I care too much about. If he's going to be like 2% owned, it's a really tough matchup against Vooch, but if he's going to be like 2% owned, he's going to have to stay on the court way more than Jakob Poeltl. Like, they might go big with Jakob Poeltl and start this game, actually, which they haven't done in a while, but I'm not really too concerned. That might actually be better if they start the game with Jakob Poeltl, getting LaMarcus Aldridge on a lot more Isaac and any set pieces, really. But I think he's still interesting. Outside of that, DeJounte Murray's price tag is down to $5,500 in a matchup where Orlando's kind of not that great against guards like Markelle Fultz, Michael Carter-Williams, DJ Augustin. It's really a team that you're going to have your most upside in your guards. So, look, he's still on this minutes limit. I hate it, but at least he's not $7,000, $6,500. He's $5,500. So, I think my most interesting player from San Antonio is actually DeJounte Murray, but it's outside interest. It's not something that I'm forcing in there. On the Orlando side of the ball, it's really just Vooch. You have Aaron Gordon's price tag coming up. You have all these guys. Evan Fournier's price tag coming up. It's really just Vooch at his price tag of $7,900. Continues to win in difficult matchups, which is important. Like, he had a very good game the last time he was out there relative for his price tag against a guy. I think it was the same price tag against a guy like Joel Embiid. So, even if he faces Jakob Poeltl and or LaMarcus Aldridge today or Rudy Gay, I'm not really too concerned about it. From Orlando, it's really just Vooch. From San Antonio, it's outside interest in guys like DeJounte Murray, more interest in Murray than LaMarcus Aldridge today. But if you have Jakob Poeltl starting at the 5 and Aldridge at the 4, I actually like that more. Usually I will never say that. I always want a guy to start at the 5 if I'm rostering him over the 4. But in this matchup, he would avoid a lot more Vooch. Now, if he starts at the 4, Aldridge, and he plays 35 minutes, I imagine half, if not 20 of those minutes are going to come at the 5 anyways, but at least you have some time away from Vooch. From the Minnesota and Washington game, this is like the game of the slate. I mean, we'll see what Houston and Indiana's and the Clippers and or the Lakers and Sacramento's totals look like, but a 238.5 total. So many really nice pieces to play here. 122.5 total, 6-point favorites for Minnesota. 116 team total for Washington, 6.5-point underdogs, obviously. It's a nice pace game. It's slightly above average at 103.7 possessions per team. Look, I like Jeff Teague. He's 5,300, came back from his injury, played off the bench. I imagine he starts this time out, but he played off the bench and he played extremely well. Shabazz Napier is still doubtful, so Teague should have all the opportunity in the world to play 30-plus minutes, which if you get Teague playing 28 minutes at this price tag of 5,300, it's a good spot for him in this matchup against Washington. Now you potentially get him playing 30 to 32. Yeah, I like Teague here. I love Karl-Anthony Towns. It shouldn't be a shocker to anybody. He's going up against a poor rebounding team in Washington, and he's $10,000 flat. And in the last game, Karl-Anthony Towns got in early foul trouble. He had like 3 fantasy points in the first quarter. The guy still finishes with 50-plus fantasy points. Just unreal how good this guy is. So Karl-Anthony Towns, yes, as the highest currently. We'll see what Houston's total looks like, but if there's no Westbrook, I imagine it'll be lower. Even if there is Westbrook, maybe it's not higher than 122.5, but currently has a 122.5 team total, the highest on the slate by 6 points. Yes, Karl-Anthony Towns seems like the priority on the slate. Obviously, James Harden would become that if there's no Russell Westbrook. Harden might be it already anyways, but for me, Karl-Anthony Towns stands out as the clear pay-up option, at least at center that I want to get to at only $10,000. So from this Minnesota team, you do have Andrew Wiggins playing out of his mind. Teague now starting should take away a lot of his opportunities, but in the last game, Teague played a good amount of minutes. Didn't start, but played alongside Wiggins for a lot of the time, and Wiggins still was fine. So maybe they're actually doing what they said they were going to do in the preseason and stop shooting mid-range jumpers with Andrew Wiggins, which are low percentage shots, and he couldn't make any of them, and he's been driving a little bit more. But the big thing is he's been shooting a lot more threes and actually making them. Maybe a little bit over his head there, but yeah, it's hard to knock Andrew Wiggins right now. He looks really good. The only concern is his price point is completely coming up, and when you have guys who are underpriced like Towns and Teague's probably appropriately to underprice as compared to Wiggins, where he might be appropriately priced, but if anything, he's overpriced. My priorities from this team go Towns, Teague, and then Wiggins. You have a really good matchup at the 4 against Rui Hachimura. It's going to be Robert Covington for parts of the game, but his minutes have just been so inconsistent. But if you think Robert Covington stays out there for 28 minutes, he's in a really good spot. If you're not going to play Towns today and you want a piece of this, these bigs from Minnesota and a favorable matchup against Washington, I think Robert Covington's a fine play. I think he's actually a nice value type of play as of right now with none opened at this time of day. But he's just kind of an outside interest for me. On the Washington side, $8,500 Bradley Beal stands out. Look, it's really hard to nail this guy down in terms of consistency, but you have a fast-paced game, a nice team total, and a really good matchup against Minnesota. Look, the Minnesota bigs and Robert Covington and Towns have actually done really well on defense relative to their past 2 or 3 seasons. The guards, though, it's similar to what it has been. You've seen steal percentages come up for Jeff Teague coming off an injury. We'll see how he performs, though, on defense moving forward. And just like the rookie Jared Culver, they usually don't play defense, so it's kind of hurt their numbers. But with Teague back, it's going to be better than it has been the last week or two, just because when people are filling in for you that are not nearly as good, it's going to hurt you at your position. Rookies usually don't play great defense unless you're Luka Doncic. But Washington, the priority for me on Washington that stands out the most is probably, so you have Beal at 8,500. I think that's fine. I think it's interesting to see how people prioritize him. Usually Bradley Beal, especially after huge 60-point games like the last time out, people will just flock to him and play a ton of him. I think that's fine. I think playing him is okay in this spot and a nice team total. I think the priority for me is Thomas Bryant. Yes, a tougher matchup down low against Covington and Towns. $6,100 though for a center who's going to play if he stays out of foul trouble, and that's a big if against Karl-Anthony Towns. 32 plus minutes, 34 minutes at $6,100 for a guy who's power forward eligible. He fits into your lineups nicely. He has a high team total, an above average pace. So my priority from Washington right now at this point in the day is Thomas Bryant. And then it's probably Bradley Beal. I think Isaiah Thomas is now appropriately priced to where I don't need to get him, but he's playing nice minutes once again. I don't really want to play Troy Brown, although he's in a good matchup. I'm not going to get there. So priorities from this game overall for me in this order are probably Karl-Anthony Towns, Teague, Thomas Bryant, Bradley Beal, Robert Covington, Andrew Wiggins. That's about it. Memphis and Utah. So Memphis, terrible team total, 103.25. I love this kid, and I love Ja Morant. I mean, if you guys didn't see his game-winning layup, and I say layup and it doesn't sound like it's cool, he went and split 2 defenders, and then he finished at the rim with 3 guys hitting him. No foul called. He makes the layup on the road, wins the game with like 1 second left. Unreal. This guy is one of the best finishers, and that play, like in its own right, literally just shows you, if you've never watched a lot of Ja Morant this year, and I literally try and go back and just watch his tape because he's a younger Russell Westbrook, at least, and the only difference is he's actually hitting threes. Like he's hitting above his head right now in threes, but great. He flies through the lane, finishes. Like, go watch that finish. And just type it into Twitter, Ja Morant game winner or whatever, and that is like the epitome of how good he's been this season at finishing. 3 bodies, a center, a power forward, and his defender at the point. He takes on all the contact, and he still finishes. Somehow doesn't get blocked. Unreal. But anyways, it's a really tough matchup for him today. I'm not going to get there with the price point coming up. But again, he was fine in the last game to get to at his price tag. But this is just a really brutal matchup. Like, nothing on Memphis stands out. If you want to get to Joe Val, Jonas Valanciunas, if you want to get to an underpriced Jaren Jackson Jr., you can. But they're both prices are coming up even then. Jaren Jackson Jr. is priced up now. Somehow he was like $700 cheaper the last time out for some odd reason. Joe Val's price is coming up for the minutes restriction kind of disappearing. But against Utah, it's just one of the worst matchups you can have. On the opposite side, Utah has a very good matchup against this Memphis team here. You're going to have fine matchups across the board. I think the one that stands out for me the most is probably Rudy Gobert, but it's just tough. You have a cheaper Nikola Vucevic who's in a tougher matchup, but he's still cheaper, and he has just shown that he's sort of matchup proof at this point. So yeah, Utah, Rudy Gobert stands out. You can get to the guys like Donovan Mitchell, albeit a tougher spot against the guards at the front of it. I think it's okay. There's really nothing from this game. Like, I don't prioritize anything from Memphis. If you want to get to their bigs, if you have money left over, I think you can get to better spots than Joe Val and Jaren Jackson Jr., but I won't argue with you for the talent at their price points. And then from Utah, yeah, it's just nothing really stands out. Maybe Bojan stands out at the 3 in a nicer matchup here, but nothing else stands out that I feel like I have to be getting to in this spot. Conley doesn't stand out. Donovan Mitchell, if I had to prioritize Utah for you right now, it would probably be Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and Bojan. But even that, like, nothing is really too big. It's just a gross game. A 213.5 overall team total is the second lowest currently on the slate right now. Nothing stands out at their current price points outside of maybe Mitchell and Gobert. Going to OKC and Philadelphia, you have OKC with a 105.7 team implied total as 3-point underdogs to Philadelphia's 108.75 team total. Yeah, it's just a spot where you have guys completely priced down because of the matchup, and that makes sense because of how scary this Philadelphia team is. I believe last time I checked, they were 6th in points per possession on defense, which is very good. Six meaning 6th best in the league. And they were just up there in terms of offensive rebounding rate, not allowing you to have second chance opportunities. Turnover percentage they were forcing was top 2 in the league. So this defense is just incredible. Obviously, they're all going to be healthy as of right now. Obviously, you can get news that Joel Embiid is ruled out sometime soon. But you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander priced at, let me tell you this price, $5,900 for this matchup. It's a brutal matchup. But he's $5,900, and he has not been good as of late. Like, his hot start was very much aided by 3-point shooting and shooting in general, and now Chris Paul's assist percentage has got going a little bit, and it's hurt Shai. So, like, $5,900 though, you see that price tag, and you're kind of baffled. At least I am. I mean, it dropped off by like $1,000 since his last price point because of this matchup. So I'm going to have interest in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You have a $4,900 Steven Adams, who I honestly don't have that much interest in. Like, how many times can we play Steven Adams and hope he plays his 28 minutes and plays well? Even if he plays his 28 minutes today, which is a big if, he still has to play Joel Embiid, which is probably one of the worst matchups for Steven Adams' skill set. So, and just no versatility on him. So I think I do like Shai. I think I like Steven Adams' price point. But if I'm trying to get anybody from the OKC side in a terrible matchup, it's probably just Shai at 5,900. There's a lot that can go right for you, and not a lot can go wrong at that price tag. As a point guard at $5,900, who I believe is shooting guard eligible, you can just throw him into your lineups, and if he gets you 30, he doesn't crush you. He seems like more of a cash play, even though there's risk because of the matchup, but he seems like more of a cash play if he just shoots half decent. GPP's at 5,900 if he's not picking up ownership because of the matchup. I think it's fine. If he's going to be really chalky, again, this is a brutal matchup for him, who a guy's been struggling as of late. Philadelphia side of the ball, nothing really stands out. Embiid is dirt cheap at 9,100, I believe. So that's, I guess, I'll walk back. Nothing stands out. That stands out, and it's somewhat difficult matchup against Steven Adams, but really Embiid will crush any matchup. He just dropped 60 plus on Vooch. So the last time out. So if everybody's healthy from this team, I really just want Embiid. You have Simmons' price tag coming up. Horford's price tag came up. Tobias Harris's actually came down. So Embiid and Tobias Harris stand out the most. But if I'm actually building lineups and I had to guess who I get to, it's probably just Embiid and not much of Tobias Harris. Even at 6,400, I think we have better options elsewhere that are more priorities on their team, maybe even play closer to the basket, like Thomas Bryant at just 6,100. Like right now, early in the morning, I haven't done my projections yet. Again, if you want them, they'll be on Patreon later today, linked up in this podcast and or YouTube description. But Thomas Bryant being $300 less than Tobias Harris in a matchup where obviously Thomas Bryant plays closer to the rim, even in a difficult matchup, I think I still would have him projecting out for probably like 3 to 5 more fantasy points than Tobias Harris for cheaper. Houston and Indy, really tough to talk about this game without knowing what happens with Westbrook, so I'll kind of just gloss over it and say that Tyson Chandler at $4,000 as a center stands out. Like, he's going to have to play 20 minutes, if not 24 minutes here, and that's a really good point per minute production from him. PJ Tucker stands out because there's no Eric or Gordon, there's no Daniel House, he's doubtful, and then there's no Clint Capella. So in terms of people who could rebound, yeah, right now on your team it's like Tyson Chandler, Russell Westbrook, and PJ Tucker. So I actually like PJ Tucker's price point, so I hope a lot of people look at his game logs and don't expect him to see a big benefit from no Clint Capella, but he'll probably play some center minutes. We saw that happening last year in the playoffs. They put PJ Tucker at the 5 more because he's really good at defense, and he's actually versatile, can shoot threes, and you could stretch him and play small, and this makes sense if, like, playing small in this matchup doesn't make too much sense if Miles Turner's in, but you have Goga and Sabonis, so it hurts you to play small. So I think Tyson Chandler stays on the court, and you get a lot of PJ Tucker staying closer to the rim at the 4 against Sabonis. So this could be a nice spot for Tucker and really hurt Sabonis' upside. So from Houston right now, give me Tyson Chandler and PJ Tucker and James Harden. With the news that Russell Westbrook is going to be out, with the news that Russell Westbrook is in, I prioritize it as PJ Tucker, Tyson Chandler still, and then Russell Westbrook, then Harden. So it's nothing against Harden. It's just that it's hard to get to him. He's still going to be an early interest of mine. I just have a lot of interest in Houston in general because Russell Westbrook is $8,400, and he's at some point going to have a triple-double. And if he's going to rest tomorrow and play today, I'd imagine he goes all out today. So Houston's kind of a tricky team because they do have value pieces in Tucker and Chandler, but you don't want too many of these guys, and a lot can go wrong with Chandler if he only ends up playing like 15, 20 minutes, then he gets in foul trouble, or he's just not great that night, and you have all of his rebounds being stolen by Russell Westbrook. Chandler becomes a much more safe value play if Russell Westbrook's out because he's probably going to get like 2 more rebounds than he normally would, if not more. Pacers side of the ball, yeah, Goga's back. It should be an okay matchup for him with no Clint Capella out there, so you can go to Goga if you want as value as well. I just don't know if I trust him too much. He'll probably play 24, 25 minutes at somewhere near a point per minute production, so I think it's actually okay. So bonus price tag up to 8,700 against Tyson Chandler and PJ Tucker. It's a good matchup for Sabonis' skill set. I just struggle paying an $8,700 price tag when you have Embiid for $400 more. Like, I really don't know in what world I pay for Sabonis over Embiid, even in like cash or even GPP. So it's tough for me to get the Sabonis today. From the Pacers, what pretty much stands out is Brogdon's price tag is still affordable for me in the 8K range, I believe. And then you also, or maybe even in the 7K range, we'll see on the next page. And then you also have Goga. That's about it. I don't really want the Aaron Holiday fill-ins at $5,000. I don't need any of that. I don't want TJ Warren here. I'll skip over the Clippers or the Lakers and Sacramento game. Well, actually, I can just say that Bojan Bogdanovic is priced up. Buddy Hield's priced up. If you want to get to him, it's fine. Rashawn Holmes at $5,800 seems like a fine play as well and a good matchup. So all these guys are appropriately priced on Sacramento right now. Bielitsa is priced up. Harrison Barnes is priced up. You're not getting any value from them, but you are getting upside with no De'Aaron Fox still for some weeks now. So the way that I prioritize Sacramento is probably still Bojan, even at his price tag, but I don't want to pay it. So I'm not going to get to too much of Sacramento as of right now. We'll see where they all grade out. But Bojan, Richaun Holmes, and Buddy Hield in that order stand out. For the Lakers, Anthony Davis is just a smash play against Richaun Holmes and the Dwayne Dedmons and Harry Giles. He's the priority for me from the Lakers is Anthony Davis and then LeBron James. And then I don't care about any of the values. Danny Green somewhat stands out if KCP misses for some extra run. But with Rajon Rondo back, I don't think it hurts LeBron James' upside that much. But I'm just going to prioritize Anthony Davis on this sort of a slate. Golden State and Boston, you have a really cheap, like $8,000 flat, and a tough matchup for sure against Kemba and Marcus Smart. You have a really cheap D'Angelo Russell, who I'll still have interest in at his price tag just because he's going to hit value in that spot more times than not. Draymond Green continues to be cheap and just continues to not give a shit and not produce out there. So I'll trust D'Angelo Russell to shoot his 25 shots and make like a third of them. And then I'll also take stabs at Willie Cauley-Stein at a below $5,000 price tag, playing somewhat stable minutes, and probably gets Enes Kanter for parts of this game, if not the whole game. Boston side of the ball, a lot stands out here. Our 116.5 team total is currently the second highest on the slate. You have Jaylen Brown's price tag stabilizing and continuing to come up, so I don't really want to get there. But you have Jason Tatum's price tag stabilizing and dropping by $100. So I like Tatum there. I think you can get to Kemba. I think Kemba is one of my favorite point guard plays on the slate in that range at least. So in this game, you have two really underpriced point guards. $8,200 Kemba Walker against Golden State is a misprice in my opinion. $8,000 of D'Angelo Russell against Boston is pushing his salary down way too much because of his matchup, like $500 too much. So give me both point guards. They're the priorities from this game. I prioritize it as Kemba Walker and then D'Angelo Russell from this entire game, and then I get to Jason Tatum the third most, and then maybe Willie Cauley-Stein fourth. So let's get to my early interest, and then we will close out this podcast and YouTube episode. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're still watching. I'm trying to crush through as many subscribers as we can to hit our goal of 20,000 by Christmas, which would be pretty much exactly like 6 weeks from now, right around there. Maybe not exactly, but I really do appreciate all the support. Let me know in the comments down below. Once again, who do you think is the best value of whenever you're watching this? Injuries could have happened. It doesn't matter. Who do you think is the best value as of the time of you watching this? So getting to my early interest, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, and Joel Embiid are the three players I put up top that are $9,000 or above as pay-up options. I like all of them. They're clearly all centers. Anthony Davis can go into your power forward spot, so you have to prioritize this. I want to see what happens with the ownership on Embiid and Towns and Davis because I think they'll cut into each other enough, and I think one might break free. Towns usually picks up a lot of ownership, so if he's being highly owned, you can get to the cheaper Embiid, who has similar upside and similar projections, for $800 less, and then you can get to Anthony Davis, who's similar as well, and he's cheaper, and he can put into a power forward spot. So all these guys are going to play 30-plus minutes for you. They're all hovering around a 30% plus usage rate. Embiid's at 33%, Anthony Davis at 30%, and Towns at 29%. They're all great plays, so it'll just be an ownership play for me at that point. Oh, but Sal, where's James Harden? Look, he's a great player. If there's no Russell Westbrook, Harden tops this list. You can get to him either way, but his salary is now $12,300, so there's a little less of an emphasis to get to him, in my opinion. If he's like 2, 4, 5% owned, really cheap in ownership, then yeah, sure, get to him a little bit more. And now you get to the second range of just my only 8K players I have interest in are Kemba Walker and D'Angelo Russell. I talked about it. They're from that same game. D'Angelo Russell, I have more interest in Kemba here. They both play similar minutes. Kemba plays about 34 per game. Russell plays around 32.5. Russell has a 34% usage rate, only going to continue to go up the more he plays without Steph Curry. Kemba, playing with a lot of other mouths on his team, has a 28.7% usage rate. But Kemba has a much easier matchup. Kemba's only point guard eligible, so they're both averaging similar. Like, they're the same player this year to an extent, not like for fantasy and how they overall produce at a high level. 42.5 fantasy points per game for Kemba, 43 for D'Angelo Russell. I'm going to have to look into this more. We'll see what the projections look like, how much it weights the matchup, because D'Angelo Russell is cheaper one, and he's shooting guard eligible, and he's going to have to be all of the usage on his team. So I might later in the day prefer D'Angelo Russell over Kemba, depending on what these projections look like. You can check those out on Patreon. In the 7K range, you have Vooch at 7,900. Playing 32 minutes a game with a 26% usage rate. I think he's fine. Malcolm Brogdon at 7,600 continues to be a really good play. He's going to continue to grade out really well for me. He gets Houston, which should be sort of a track meet as a shooting guard eligible point guard. You're going to get him with a 30% usage, 34.5 minutes per game. I think Brogdon's my favorite 7K play in the day. But that's a very big if, because if Blake Griffin's minutes limit is lifted, or they're telling you he's going to play 28 today at 7,100, it's really hard not to like Griffin, who's only power forward eligible, oddly enough. Scored 35.3 fantasy points in his first game back on very limited minutes into the mid to low 20s. So Blake Griffin at 7,100, if his minutes limit is at 28 or higher or completely gone, he'll be my favorite 7K play of the day and one of my favorite plays in the day. But as of right now, it's going to be Brogdon. Jason Tatum at 7,400 seems interesting as well. Only player in the 6K range I wrote down was Thomas Bryant. We already talked about him in a really really good game environment. Above average pace, highest total for the game on the slate, third highest team total on the slate, or second highest team total on the slate. $6,100 is really tough to ignore for a center playing 30 minutes per game on average with a 20% usage rate. I do like that spot for him. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is $5,900, shooting guard eligible, 35 minutes per game, 25% usage rate. His production is coming down as Chris Paul continues to be a little bit better, and we expected that to happen because Paul wasn't going to be terrible all season long, but it's because of the matchup. But for $5,900, and if he's low owned, it's a very good play. If not, then it's just sort of a cash play. My favorite play in the 5K range is right now Jeff Teague, point guard only, 26 minutes per game, but those are going to stabilize around 30, but no Shabazz Napier behind him, and that's also taking into account a game he left early due to injury. And then 22.4% usage rate is okay as well. That'll only go up with no Shabazz Napier playing alongside of him for like 3 to 4 minutes a game, and then also coming off the bench. So Jeff Teague's my favorite 5K play. Cody Zeller at $5,400 is sort of an afterthought without how many good centers are on the slate. And he's only center eligible, but I think he's okay at this price. He's definitely okay at the price tag for a guy who's averaging 30 fantasy points per game, and a guy who plays 27 minutes per game on average, but those can get a little bit wonky. 19% usage rate. At $5,400, at the same position of center, I'd rather just save money, get down to like the ultra value type of plays in the 4K range, or just find the money to get up to a guy like Thomas Bryant. Enes Kanter is in yellow for me. He's $4,900 against Golden State. I should have mentioned this in the team breakdowns. If you have Daniel Tice and Robert Williams out, I like Enes Kanter. If one of them plays, I'm probably not going to get to Kanter because Robert Williams, if he's in, will play 20-plus minutes. If Tice is in, he'll play 24, 25-plus minutes. So it really just crushes the floor and ceiling of what Kanter can do. If they're both out, then I do like Kanter. Willie Cauley-Stein at $4,700 is similar to like Kanter, as if Kanter is in and those other guys are out, Kanter and Cauley-Stein will grade out very similar for me. I'll probably have Kanter as a little bit higher because he's just in the better overall team total of 116.5 compared to the Warriors of 108.5. Cauley-Stein's on here just though because he's a cheap center who's going to continue to play more minutes as time goes on, and he's relatively productive on a point per minute basis. PJ Tucker I like a lot today. He'll play a lot of power forward, and if Russell Westbrook is out, his rebounding rate will go significantly up. Clint Capella's out, so his rebounding rate's already going to go up, and he's $4,500, and he's going to be a power forward that you can put into a small forward spot. So as of right now, 6 in the morning, I do like 6:22. I do like Clint Capella, but that can change, of course, depending on injury news of Russell Westbrook. Jake Layman's a built-in value that seems nice, playing a consistent 25 to 26 to 27, 26.5 on average minutes per game. $4,400, $4,000 Tyson Chandler filling in for Clint Capella today. He's a point per minute producer, so if he plays 20 minutes, you're going to get a lot out of Tyson Chandler. If he plays 22 to 24, it's going to be very good. I just don't know how much minutes Tyson Chandler can actually play at this point in his career. It's probably 20 is like what his cap is. Goga at $4,000 is nice value. He should start pushing Domantas Sabonis to the 4 with no Miles Turner still. Trey Lyles is built-in value at only power forward eligible, $3,800. He continues to start for San Antonio. This could be a spot against a big San Antonio team that they put Marcus Aldridge at the 4, and then they put Jakob Poeltl at the 5. There's backup center, second or third year center. So if that happens, then Trey Lyles at $3,800 is no longer built in value. I should also point out that Trey Lyles is not like any smash play. Same thing for Jake Layman. These guys should be in yellow, as they're the built-in values on the slate right now that if any injuries happen, they immediately become not interesting to me. Same can be said for Marko Guduric with no Grayson Allen still. He's been filling in for him, playing somewhere around 20 minutes per game and being relatively productive when he shoots well. It's $3,700. It's a huge risk, of course, relying on shooting there. But again, if there's any sort of other value that opens up, guys like Jake Layman, Trey Lyles, Goga, Marco, they really don't matter all that much anymore. So, with that said, thank you all for tuning in. I'll put this back on the Target Offense sheet, where you can also download over on Patreon. Check it out. Have a look down in the description. There are free strategy guides to play NBA DFS. NFL DFS are down there, and DFS in general, a lot of strategy. I have a daily fantasy course that you can, if you want $100 off my daily fantasy course, leave a comment. Hey, Sal, can I get that coupon? I'll give you $100 off the course. It'll only be $50 instead of $150. Lots of hours of videos in there and a lot of trainings that I do for daily fantasy NFL that can also be applied to other stuff. I'll have an NBA course out later this year as well, once I have time to actually do that, once the NFL starts to slow down. But thank you so much. Follow me on Instagram. Be sure to follow me over there, where I do exclusive, just kind of free things opened up on Patreon. I only tell my Instagram following with like a very subtle post or very subtle story like last night. And if you see it, great. If not, oh well, but you can only see it if you follow me, so check that out. And then follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. I do appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to check out the link in the description below to FantasyDraft if you want to play over there. Rake-free DFS. It's very cool. It's interesting to check out, and you're going to automatically save yourself money. It's crazy that people just think these ad reads are like they're bogus or something. Like, you're going to save money. So check it out. Again, my name is Sal. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hit the subscribe button, 5-star rate and review before you leave. Peace out, gang. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Above my head, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, I do ask you if you can please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a good amount to reach more people. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's over there. Right in the corner is my @SalVetriDFS Twitter. And then above, you'll find my Patreon link. You can click on that if you want more exclusive content for me. Or a video is going to pop up, so why don't you check that one out as well. I think it's going to be beneficial for you. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.